Hi, I'm Dr. Joe DeMarco, chiropractor and owner of OcraMed Health. Welcome to the OcraMed Health Podcast, where every week I interview an inspirational athlete who's over the age of 50. This week we have on the show Ellen Jaffe Jones, who is a national champion in masters running, and she's also a 100% plant-based athlete. Very inspirational woman. We're going to be talking to her in a second. Before we get into today's interview, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel, OcraMed Health. Hit that little bell notification. It notifies you every time we upload a new video. And at the end of today's video, if you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Hi, I'm here today with Ellen Jaffe Jones, a 100% plant-based athlete who competes as a runner, who's won 2 gold medals at the senior games, which we call the National Senior Games. She's also the author of 6 books, as well as a certified running coach, a vegan lifestyle coach, a motivational speaker, a cooking instructor, a personal trainer, and let's not forget, Peter voted her the 2014 sexiest vegan over 50. We can't forget that. Welcome, Ellen. I'm so glad to have you on my podcast.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. You're too kind.
So I know that from reading about you a little bit, your bio, that you've been a 100% plant-based, a vegan for the past 40 years. So could you take us on that journey as far as back then, what the transition, like what made you transition, and did you transition abruptly, or was this a gradual transition at that point or at that time in your life?
So it all started when I was 5 years old. I just sort of try and add humor where possible, because it's, for all of us, but if you get to be this age, you've had some serious trauma. Sure. And mine was at the age of 5. My aunt died of breast cancer in our home, 6 long torturous months, leaving her daughter without a mom who was just a year older than me. So we grew up together, kind of traumatized by all of that. And then my 2 sisters and my mom would go on to have breast cancer. And because we were so well known as the cancer family in St. Louis, I was the only adult female without it. We became part of the BRCA1 and BRCA2 gene studies that you can now routinely go to your doctor and get tested for. Yep. So again, it wasn't until I was on Medicare that I could actually get the test to find out that, yes, I am a clone of my father, and thank God I didn't get any of those maternal genes, nor did my 3 daughters. So that's the good news. Although they think that 2 of the cases, my mom and my oldest sister, were environmentally triggered, that they were not genetic because they were older in life versus my other sister and aunt who got it younger in life. But at the age of 28, same time my sister had breast cancer for the 2nd time, I almost died of a colon blockage. I was working in the TV newsroom in St. Louis, and just it was during a snowstorm. The station was catering in cold cuts, high salt, not enough water, and I doubled over, couldn't come out of the bathroom for 2 hours. They carted me, doubled over to the emergency room, and the doctor said, never seen a colon blockage that large in somebody so young, and you need to be on medicine the rest of your life. Well, at that point, I ran to the health food store, read all 5 books on fiber, because that's all there was. And my trajectory, which is somewhat common in women my age, almost 70, by the way, is macrobiotic, vegetarian, and then vegan. So there were some interruptions along the way. I had doctors when I was pregnant saying, oh, you're going to cause brain damage to your unborn children if you don't give them whey protein. Never thinking, when I became a La Leche League leader, breastfeeding information support group, when my children were born, we're the only species drinking milk from another species. So why would we need to give whey protein, okay, whatever. But that's what, women, again, often my age, were told during those times. And the last time for me was when I moved to Florida just after about 2002, 2003. I had been working at Smith Barney as a financial consultant, had no control over my diet. My cholesterol was through the roof, 203. Just calcification of my arteries was already showing up in x-rays. And I got down here and had fibroid tumors that were hemorrhaging for 3 weeks, and the doctors wanted to do a hysterectomy. And my OB got on the phone and said, turns out she was a closet vegan. And she said, go back to that vegan diet and call me in the morning. And within 3 weeks, all signs of menopause were gone. Hot flashes gone. Fibroid shrank.
That's amazing. I know.
Well, ask your doctor if plants are right for you. So that is my short story.
So basically, so you were doing vegan when you were 28 after that incident, and then you did you go off of it a little bit, and then you So you've been, so how long has it been that now that you've been just a steady 100% plant-based since 03?
I would put it at that timeline. Yeah. Although again, when I was at Smith Barney, I had my McDougal cups under my desk because we would have these working dinners at Morton's where the only choice I got was what, salad dressing.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I was just telling someone today, it's hard sometimes to, when you grow up with like, for example, my parents, I'm from an Italian household. I mean, no one knew about being vegetarian or being vegan. So when you grow up in that environment, and I think I read that your parents were both chain smokers, you had mentioned in your bio. And so when you're not raised by like vegan parents, it's as you become an adult, you kind of gravitate towards wanting to be plant-based. Like for me, it was for love of animals, but you have that mindset of like, well, my whole family's eating sausages and meatballs, and you know what I mean? And it's like, it's hard. Like I kind of went through that too, where I was plant-based, then I kind of went off, then I went plant, and finally you get to a point in your life where this is the way it is. This is the best thing for everybody, all the animals, it's best for me. And then you, like myself too, I know I'm never going back. I feel comfortable with the way I eat, and I'm sure you feel very, very comfortable with the way you eat, and it's the best way to eat. It's the healthiest, and it's the best for the environment. It's best for all the creatures on this planet. So I know I was reading also that, so you actually didn't get into running because I know you're quite an accomplished runner till you were an adult. So this wasn't something you were doing like in high school or anything. So you became a runner like in your 20s or 30s or?
Yeah. So, Title IX was not a thing. In fact, I'm just doing the 50th anniversary celebrations of it. It wasn't in high school. We had field hockey or home economics. That was pretty much what was available for women.
Yeah.
So I tried when I was in my 20s, when I was working as a TV reporter in Miami, to try and run there, but they didn't have running pass. They didn't have good park system at that point. And I remember trying to run on the beach, and the sand on the East Coast, I'm now living on the West Coast of Florida, was very coarse and very sloped. So you just couldn't run very far and certainly very fast. So I kind of gave up. When I moved back to St. Louis, which is, I'll take a Florida summer over a St. Louis summer any day of the year. But it was still a better place to run. I am so old that I remember Gore-Tex when it first came out, and it was like running in a suit of armor. It kept the weather out, but it was like very crunchy and noisy. But I did run through a lot of snow and ice storms wearing that stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I competed a little bit back then in the Snowball series. In fact, they just had their 40th anniversary not too long ago. My kids gave me the 40th anniversary sweatshirt. Not that I would ever wear it in Florida, but that's what they were selling. And it was a great Mother's Day present. But my kids actually ran it. So it was a series of 5K races in the wintertime just to keep people motivated, but I never placed. And it wasn't until I moved to Florida that I was running with our local running club. And I would encourage anybody who's listening, find your local running clubs. Most of them have a lot of walkers, and there's a gradual transition if you want to do it into running, if you're not already. And so I started running with them, and the coach for the high school said, why don't you come out and run with the high school girls cross country and track team? And when I started doing that, she was clocking me doing 8-minute miles. And she said, would you like to be my assistant coach? And that really started a fabulous journey of kind of getting free training on a very high level.
Now, how long ago was that about?
That was my book, Eat Vegan on $4 a Day, came out in 2011, about 2006. I started doing this and then had to stop. I was driving to the high school. It was like a 30-minute drive from where I was each way 4 times a week as a volunteer.
Wow.
But once, I was on book tour, I couldn't keep up with that. So, but it was great fun to work with the kids. Many of them had never seen things like the kinds of vegetables. They asked me to bring in snacks, and that was a lot of fun. I remember one girl she never knew what crunchy peanut butter was. It only had Skippy, the smooth stuff, and things like that kind of, I know, made a difference.
Sure,
to these kids.
So most of all the accolades you've had as a runner has been within that last, say, 15 years then, right? So can you tell us a little bit about like some of your most gratifying like achievements in running that you've experienced, like at the senior games and some of the stuff that you feel most gratified about, some of your placings?
Yeah, it was, I kind of would joke with people that winning my age group now is just about showing up, but that's not completely true, because the thing is, people move to Florida and they have nothing better to do than, whether it's pickleball or tennis. Running is very much up there on the level of.
And there's more and more people doing all those masters events now. It's crazy. I mean, maybe 20 years ago you'd have a handful of people in the 60 and older. Now it's like packed with competitors in all the different sports, whether it's running, the bodybuilding. I mean, there's so many more people over 60, over 70 that are competing now. It's awesome,
Right. And that's one of the reasons at the senior games, I decided that I would continue my tradition, as I have in the 2 past games, to compete in all 7 track events. Nobody generally does that, because one is quite enough, because you're going a lot. So the fact that I could place in 3 of them this year out of 7 was very gratifying, even though I don't get any kind of award or really recognition for that. But a friend of mine who I went to journalism school with, who actually is the CEO of Growing Boulder, which is the marketing arm of the National Senior Games, he said to me at the end, he says, "Ellen, I wish we could have given you more publicity, but we couldn't get any of the networks to cover the National Senior Games because it's so routine now that people are doing all these things. It's not, if news is the unusual, it was not unusual."
That's funny.
So, but that said, I think it was pretty, the older you get, the more unusual it is to do some of these things. And I'm certainly seeing that now. This is actually my 4th senior games. They canceled, they only have them every other year.
Oh, they do? I didn't know that. So it's every other year. Okay.
So the year before is what's called a qualifying year. So you have to compete first at the county level and then at the state level. Yeah. And then if you place in the top 3 or 4 for each of those respectively, then you can qualify to go to nationals. Yeah. And not everybody goes to nationals because they can't afford it, or even though they try and make it very affordable for people. We have sometimes dorm rooms to stay in, so you don't have to stay at a 5-star hotel or anything. But it's been at the 4 different games I competed in, each year there have been more people, except this year because of COVID. I think it was back, they had like something like 40,000 in 2019 in Albuquerque. Okay. And then this year it was about 20,000.
So they didn't have it in 2021, they had it in 2022?
Correct. And then they're going to have it again in 2023. So I've already qualified for.
Are you going to do 2023?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's good. So. Now, are you going to do like crazy again, 7 events again? Or are you going to do?
Yeah, you pay your registration. So like, why wouldn't you do all the events? It's like another $5 to do another event. So
I'd be down with that. I'd be doing as many events as I could,
But, I'm all about the budget. So like, it's cheaper than a 5K. And it's going to be interesting with gas prices. I have traveled quite a bit to do 5Ks just to kind of keep this crazy record of 254 age group awards since 2006, just on plants. And the way that started out, that's a fun story. So, I was starting to do some racing and really wasn't keeping all that track of it. I mean, I was keeping my medals and stuff like that. Right. And if you look, on my website or on the different presentations I do, I show the progression of how the medals are growing. So you can just kind of see they go all the way.
It's quite a collection.
Yeah. And so we're going this is actually a lanai. You can see maybe sliding doors on either side here. So fortunately it's closed in here and we get a little bit of air conditioning out here, but this is my office. This is where I've been relegated because it's the only space big enough for all that nonsense. But it's all become this mission. And part of it is I was at a race in sometime before, around the time my book came out, Eat Vegan on $4 a Day. That was my first book. And so I was wearing this very shirt, as I always did at races, to kind of get out there in the mainstream, because you have all different kinds of people and usually barbecues, hamburgers, and hot dogs at the end of these races that make you gag. And so somebody came up to me at the end of a race and seeing this shirt, looks at my chest and goes, "Yeah, right. First of all, doubting that you could eat vegan on $4 a day." And then he says, "You can't run a race on a vegan diet." And I'm going like, let's have that conversation. And we did.
Yeah.
And I think I may have had him convinced by the end, but all of this is to show the doubting Thomases and Terry's
Yeah.
world that you can do it. And the truth is, I've had such pushback from some of the local runners, not a lot, but a few of them, legendary hate stuff on social media,
Right.
especially when the butter is back. I don't know if you remember that cover story on Time magazine.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, did I hear from them? Just, ridiculing, mocking, butter all over my page. And so I really dug my heels in at that point. Said, I'll see you at my age.
I mean, it's all, I think it's just a lot of it's just a lack of education, because, I the other day, like someone said to me, you're plant-based. Oh, I could never be plant-based. I hate tofu. And I'm like, I don't even like tofu myself. I don't eat tofu. Like, that's what they think though. People think that if you're plant-based, you're living off of celery sticks and tofu. Meanwhile, I mean, I eat like incredible meals. I mean, there's so many like awesome like vegan recipes out there that I don't know. It's so what people don't think it is. I mean, it's just so people are just so uneducated when it comes to it. They just don't understand how well you eat when you're plant-based and how good it is for you, and how you can accomplish athletically. It's a help, not a hinder.
Yeah, I like to say plants enhance. And one of the reasons I think I win my age group a lot, as much as I do, is because I don't have arthritis. And so many women that used to beat me like crazy 15 or 20 years ago in my age group in the 50s aren't even running anymore.
Right.
So, they've got hip and knee and, replacements and all kinds of foot issues. And it's so sad. I've tried to kind of be the advocate there, saying, you don't have to go through that surgery. You don't have to go through this pain and suffering. But it's like, but, and you can lead a horse to water, but you can't.
Right. And that's, so what do you do? Like, what is your philosophy? Because I know plant-based, vegans have different philosophies. Like some people are like very aggressive towards non-vegans, as far as like, you really shouldn't be eating meat, blah, blah, blah. Like, how do you take it when, like, I mean, when you have friends or people that are talking to you that say, well, I love hamburgers or I love eating a piece of steak. And do you try to just be real subtle about it? Or do you like, how do you like deal with like that? I mean, I have my way of dealing with it, I guess, but I mean, everyone has their own way.
Right. I've had 41 years to be exact of fighting this battle.
Yeah.
And it first began with my family, which was as cantankerous as any battle I have ever fought. It's one of the reasons I wrote Kitchen Divided. That was my second book, Vegan Dishes for Semi-Vegan Households.
Yeah.
My husband at the time was not vegan. He was having heart issues, and his best friend from college, who was a well-known local attorney, said, you live with one of the best cookbook authors in America. Why don't you just eat what she cooks 3 times a day? And he goes, I can't. And the real answer was, I won't. And within a year, he has a death-defying heart attack, came within an hour of dying, according to the emergency room doctors. And, he woke up from bypass surgery and said, I never want to have this kind of pain again. Help me go vegan. I was so excited.
Yeah. That
was Halloween because the ER nurses were in their costumes. And by Christmas, he was done. So that was just a really tough thing for me because I spent 30 days in cardiac rehab. The head of the cardiology department said, way more about nutrition than anybody on staff here. Bring in your Vitamix, make the green smoothies, and that'll be the best thing for him.
Right.
And, it was. He had a pretty remarkable recovery to that point.
Right.
So I was just used to kind of swimming upstream. And, my parents were actually fairly open to the idea. My 2 older sisters, 9 and 11 years older, not so much. They thought I was a black sheep, cult member, but I would bring salads to dinners. And usually those were the first things to disappear. I made sure they were drop dead gorgeous salads that everybody wanted to eat.
Right.
And, that's kind of, I guess the expression is kill them with kindness, sugar, be as, vivacious as I always am. And, what have you done lately? Oh yeah, I was running that race. I mean, we walk dogs in our neighborhood and, people are always asking me, and after walking with me for so many days and weeks, somebody will invariably ask me for a copy of a book, for their son or a friend.
I tell you, sometimes, like you mentioned, like the family is the toughest. I mean, I have a 92-year-old Italian mother who to this day just is like, can still not wrap her head around the fact that her Italian son does not want to eat meat. You know what I mean? She just, every weekend when I go see her, she's always like, she'll offer me. I'm like, Ma, I don't eat meat. Like, she offers me stuff still to this day, knowing that I don't eat that. But that's just, it's just no convincing her that it makes no sense to her. And I mean, whatever, it's her generation and her, that, the fact that the way she grew up. And I mean, that's the way I grew up too at first, so.
Yeah.
But
don't give up, because
no, I know.
my dad had this sinus condition that I think actually got him out of World War II. He could not breathe through a gas mask. They said it was a deviated septum, but I suspect, because if you were walking behind him, I remember this as a kid, he was always, to put it kindly, expectorating. He had this constant sinus drainage, and then he would spit it out, either in his handkerchief or, sidewalk, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's gross, but then he starts listening to me about how, for some people, and this was true for myself and so many other people, it was like turning off a faucet in the back of your throat once you get rid of dairy. And I had asthma, I had chronic bronchitis, upper respiratory issues. So he says, okay, I'll try soy milk. And he got the assisted living facility to start carrying soy milk at the age of 90. So.
Yeah, I mean, dairy is a huge thing. I mean, a huge problem for a lot of people, and they just, it's just so, it makes no sense to me, dear. I always love to know. I always say, I'd love to know who the person was who at one day in the world said, oh, look at that cow's milk, let's start drinking that. Like,
I actually researched that for my, it was my third book, Paleo Vegan, because when I was a high school coach, the kids were starting to talk about this paleo diet. So I forced myself to read some of the meat-based paleo books. I'm going, this is the Atkins diets, this is the Zone diet, South Beach, all same thing. And, I read in one of the pieces of literature that I was looking at as I was writing the book that it started in a desert in Africa where there was not milk, there wasn't water available. So they noticed that there was fluid from cows, and it was about 3,000 years ago. So before then, that was pretty much, we were not drinking milk from another species.
Yeah. What I wanted to mention, I know you mentioned a couple of your books. I wanted to just mention your books. You have 6 books that I saw. You have Vegan for One, Vegan Sex, Eat Vegan for $4 a day, like your t-shirt, Paleo Vegan, Vegan Fitness for Mortals, and Kitchen Divided. So you have 6 books out there. I was curious, what's your latest one? And can you tell me a little bit about it?
So I wrote Vegan Sex with Joel Kahn, Dr. Joel Kahn, who's a vegan cardiologist. And, my publisher, I told him that I wanted to do the book on vegan sex only because and I wrote the personal experience. Joel writes the medical research side of it. And then we have all my books have about 100 different recipes. There's no overlap. So, my publisher didn't think a book on vegan sex would sell. He said, we've tried to do this in the past and it hasn't worked so well. And I said, I've got the personal experiences. This is up until the age of 62. All of my partners, marriages, however we want to categorize them, all had from the age of 28 ED. And we were told that it was the normal part of the aging process. Just pop the purple pill if your eyes turn orange. Oh, well. And it worked. And so it wasn't until I ended up the short story is getting divorced from that husband I mentioned from Kitchen Divided, only because with oxygen deprivation, the short story is he turned violent and I could no longer live at the house.
Sure.
And so, but we were always told that this is just a normal part of the aging process. So after that, at the age of 62, I had my first vegan partner, and it was so mind-blowing and different. I thought, oh my gosh, the world has to know this, not only for men, but for women. And, I was told by some physical therapists, because I was having lower back pain, they said, oh, it's because, you haven't how detailed can I get on this podcast?
Oh, it's only for adults.
All right. So I had not had intercourse in decades.
Yeah.
And the physical therapist said your back pain is caused by a prolapsing uterus and your muscles are atrophying, even though you're a runner.
Yeah.
And at one point, actually, there's this expression of giving birth to your uterus. If you run too much, it feels that way. And I experienced that. And this was like, oh my gosh. So, and it's actually healthy for older women to have this, not only the muscular workout in that part of your body, but just the emotional connection too. So anyway, I had this experience and I thought, I just really need to write about it. And so that's what the personal side of that book is all about. And I heard from so many women and men who said, you've given us our sex lives back. The physical therapist said, if you're ever so lucky to have intercourse again, it's going to be painful. It's going to be, you're going to be dry. And just all these dire warnings that never have panned out to be true at all. So because why? Vegans are eating fruits and vegetables, a lot of water in there. And so, you're certainly very well lubricated. Not to say that there aren't issues. It's not a guarantee, but it's just, I think it's a very different experience for vegans in this arena. And then after that, I kind of joke, if vegan sex doesn't work out, there's vegan for one. So the recipes in there are single serve.
So was Vegan for One your latest book?
Yes, that's my.
Oh, that's your latest. Okay, so when did that come out? Was that just recently, or?
Oh no, that was like, relatively speaking, COVID ended my speaking career, and for everybody, things just kind of shut down, including for my publisher. So it's all just remote. But let's see, Vegan for One was, I think, 2018.
Okay, so do you have anything? Are you working on something that's going to be coming out soon, or?
I would love to do Running Vegan.
Yeah.
Even though Vegan Fitness for Mortals is kind of my attempt at fitness, we wanted to keep it broader than just running to have a broader appeal. And I do. Before COVID, I was a certified personal trainer for a number of years. And then when the gym shut down, I figured, what's the point of this?
Yeah.
And, everything was just so closed up. So I still have my running certification, and I may recertify as a personal trainer, because I've actually have been offered to teach aerobics at a local gym here. So,
cool.
It may, I may go down that route, but I mean, there's just so many things one wants to do.
Yeah. So now that COVID's, things are loosening up everywhere, are you going back on doing some, upcoming motivational talks and do some motivational speaking now?
Yes, I'm going to be speaking this weekend, as we are talking now, in June at the Columbia, South Carolina Veg Fest. I'll be speaking at the Atlanta Veg Fest, the Tampa Bay Veg Fest. Those are the ones that are coming up. I don't know really how many Veg Fests are opening up. I've spoken a ton. There were a bunch last season in Southwest Florida, North Florida. But again, these are particular individuals who have found a way to keep the Veg Fest outside, to get permitted. And that's been tough, even for running races. That's been very challenging for race directors. So there are all these moving parts now that we didn't have before COVID. So I am not sure how much things are really opening up, especially inside. I mean, I hear bits and pieces, but I don't think it's going to be the way it was before.
No, I mean, I'm sure it's going to still take some time. There's still a lot of stuff that's restricted. It depends on what part of the country, of course, you're at too. I mean, it all varies depending on whether you're, in which state you go into and stuff like that. I mean, we're still in Massachusetts. We're still under a mask mandate in my chiropractic office. Healthcare is still required to wear masks. So there's a lot of different, depends state to state. So
right.
But so what's anything, especially like to tell anyone anything coming up that's big going on, like as far as race, besides, are you just training for 2023 now, and are you just anything else coming up for you that you want to tell us about? Or
yeah, so in Florida, things really do shut down for the summer. This was before COVID anyway, because it's just, people say it's oppressively hot, and I guess it is, but not so much at 8 a.m. I mean, I can still run. And I just feel like I also wanted to take a big long rest period after the senior games, because there were sometimes I was racing twice a weekend, doing 2 5Ks in a weekend.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Racing every weekend. At one point when I started doing this, I had said to myself, Ellen, you're not going to do more than 1 5K a month. I mean, first of all, they're expensive.
Yeah.
And it can
they are expensive, aren't they? It's not cheap to do a 5K anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And interestingly, about 2 months before the National Senior Games, I'd been on some podcasts, and I got a message from somebody with a group called Get Set Up, which is the largest online platform of free classes for seniors, people over the age of 50, they qualify that as. And they said, we want you to be our first sponsored athlete. The only thing is you have to wear our shirt at the races. So I couldn't wear my Eat Vegan, which was fine. I mean, they paid my whole way.
Yeah.
I got this incredible wardrobe of running gear.
Oh,
and,
cool. Yeah.
It was a really fun experience.
Yeah.
So I've never been a sponsored athlete before. And
I'm surprised some plant-based companies don't reach out to you to.
Well, this is funny you mention it. Let's see if I can pull this up here. So when I got the sponsorship, Seth Tibbett, who is the CEO of Tofurkey, we had been on the lecture circuit and just had some experiences together when I was traveling out on the West Coast, and the company was still kind of in its infancy back in the day when this came out. And so I joking, he very kindly wrote some really lovely words on my Facebook page about how what I'm doing, I won't go into all the detail, but that nobody else has taken this on, running, placing, not just running, placing in 254 5K or longer races for my age group since 2006, as I like to say, just on plans, because people say, oh, you can't do that just on plans. So anyway, I jokingly said, after this company sponsored me, I said, Seth, I would have much rather you had sponsored me. And he said, okay, let me send you some shirts. I mean, these are not shirts, but I feel like I have to give him a shout out, because he actually did a 5K when I spoke at the Portland Veg Fest a number of years ago. There's a picture of me standing, hugging the sign saying, finally, vegan 5Ks. And to that end, I got so tired of inhaling dead carcasses when I crossed the finish line that I paid, there's this local race. It had been going on for 17 years, a 5K. And I said, I'll be your title sponsor to the tune of $10,000 if you let me have everything be vegan at the race, including all the food, including everything that happens at the race. I don't want any Chick-fil-A. I don't want any cartons of milk handed out at the finish line. It's all going to be vegan. And I spent another $3,000, got up at 4 a.m, went to this great store that had a lot of vegan desserts and cookies and crap like that, but and healthy things too. Put it in the back of my Prius, drove it to the start line, and still placed in my age group at the race.
That's so awesome. I love that. I love that story.
Yes. And you just get so annoyed. It fuels you into action. So I hope that your listeners will find their jam, whatever it is, to get the message out there.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much. It's so great having you on, because it's like, I mean, people can just take one look at you. I mean, first of all, you don't look a day over 50, and I swear, I mean that sincerely. I mean, so when people see someone like you, who's, plant-based individual, an athlete, and just, I mean, just how well that lifestyle, how healthy it keeps you and how young it keeps you looking, and how great you feel, the fact that you can do all this running. I mean, it's just a great example. You're just a great example of why more and more people should go and at least go towards that plant-based diet. Even if you don't want to be 100% plant-based, I'd love to just see people just go in that direction, and you're just a perfect example why people should do it. And I've really, it's been great talking to you. You're just a wonderful inspiration to everybody.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, because, people shouldn't have to suffer. It's so preventable. I mean, not completely 100%, but so much of it is.
Oh, yeah.
And, my parents were so sick and diseased by the time I had kids, they couldn't lift them, let alone babysit them. And entire generations are losing each other and don't even realize it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So anyways, I'm hoping in the future we have more and more people like you on. And thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure. So
thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right, Ellen, take care. All right.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's video with Ellen Jaffe Jones. Stay tuned for next week. We'll have another athlete over the age of 50 to inspire you. If you haven't done so already, take a moment, go to my website, www.OcraMedHealth.com. We have a full line of fast release products and exercise equipment. Subscribe to OcraMed Health on YouTube. If you have any questions about exercise or injuries, just leave a comment in the comment section down below. I do the best I can to get back to everybody. And don't forget, OcraMed Health is here to keep you fit forever.